Well, so hello, and welcome to the class. I'm going to share my screen and we'll kick off our first session. 1 second. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's start. Welcome to our Introduction to Product Management course. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to be here today with us. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about myself. So my name is Felix. I'm currently a senior product manager at a company within the real estate domain called First American Financial Corporation. Perhaps you may have heard of these guys if you've had any real estate transactions recently. This company participates in many different things that have to do with real estate. Previously, I worked at companies such as Ernst & Young, Silicon Valley Bank, and vehicle remarketing companies like ADESA and OpenLane. Overall, I have over 15 years in product management experience in various industries from real estate, banking, health, HR, and automotive industries. I originally transitioned into product management from a software engineer role. So for those of you on the call who are in QA or software engineer or other technical position who are interested in learning about product management and perhaps transitioning to that role, I have gone through that path before, and it's something that I can talk about in detail and provide guidance. But for those of you who are generally interested in learning product management, I think my experience and knowledge can provide a lot of interesting insights and information. I've got my bachelor degrees in computer engineering from Santa Clara University, and my hobbies include hiking, spending time with the family, and I absolutely love puzzles. Sudoku, Wordle, just I can spend hours doing these sort of things. Now, let's talk about the class. So, who is this class for? Well, really, we have no limits. We're not blocking anybody from learning about this class. Anybody who's interested in product management will have a lot of takeaways. I'm pretty sure of that. Why is it important to learn product management? Well, with the advancements of AI, the technical roles, the pure technical roles, are somewhat losing their importance. As somebody who's your prototypical software engineer who only focuses on writing code based on specifications that product managers provide is not somebody that a lot of companies are interested in anymore. They want to have a software engineer or a QA professional who can also understand the business reasons why something needs to happen, why a particular work can be done, to kind of mash those experiences together. And on top of that, as I mentioned about myself, but really anybody who is a QA or a tech professional who's interested in changing their careers, to getting engaged in the product, to learn more about how the business decisions are made, how the business sides of things work, this class will have a lot of takeaways for these people. The overall structure of the class, well, it will consist of 8 2-hour sessions We'll meet Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, just like we are today. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts so far? All right, I'll move on. Now, as you may or may not know, those of you that previously took classes at Portnoy Computer School, you probably are familiar with Tanya Kancevich, who's one of the wonderful teachers that we have here. Well, so she is an example of a person who recently transitioned from being a QA engineer to a product manager. In her company, she now works as a product manager, and she found some of the items that are covered in this class absolutely invaluable, and they helped her with this transition. So here's a real life example of somebody who has benefited from learning and becoming a product manager. She was supposed to join with us today to share her experience, how the transition went, and what kind of spurred her on changing her path. But unfortunately, she had an urgent meeting at work, so she's not able to attend. But she is one good example of somebody who has taken up this new career path and absolutely loves it and enjoys being there. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the connections between product management and QA. And the reason why I'm focusing on QA, as you know, the general modus operandi of Portnoy Computer School is we are focusing on bringing people into the software engineering realm by teaching QA courses and helping folks orient them in this profession. So I think a lot of the folks in the audience are QA or have explored the path on becoming QA. So I want to draw some parallels and create some alignments between product management and QA, and why QA engineers are in a great position to make the switch to pivot to product management. So product managers have a lot of parts in their roles that are already part of what QA does, or they work side by side with QA on many, many things. So in general, while the PMs, they define what exactly is going to be built and why it needs to be built from a business perspective, it's really up to QA to ensure that the product is delivered in a way that meets customer and business expectations and works without any bugs. So that intersection area of product management and QA is really what provides true customer satisfaction when PM and QA are able to work in unison. Let's explore a little bit more about the tie-ins between product management and QA positions. So from the PM side, they define the acceptance criteria, which QA will later use to write their test cases. It's really, really important for PMs to be able to write clear testable requirements for every feature that they are putting out there. It's extremely important for PMs to work with QA to prioritize quality. We need to make sure that as PMs, we allocate time for testing, for bug fixes in our roadmap planning. It's also very important to provide clarity and ensure that there is understanding with everybody involved in the product delivery process, and especially so with QA, just to make sure that everybody understands the why a particular feature is important to the customer. What are the customer use cases? How is this feature going to be used once it goes live? With a clear understanding of user intent and expected outcomes, QA can truly test the product as the customer is going to use them, and won't miss any corner cases or rare scenarios. And then PMs need to balance trade-offs. What's more important, do we focus on improving the quality of the features that are already out there? Or do we need to leave the things that we delivered as they are and instead focusing on adding new customer experiences? So I can give you an example that I've encountered recently in my job. So there was a new feature that one of our customers required, and if we didn't deliver this feature, then the entire contract with this customer was in question, that they might go to another vendor for their real estate needs. And when we reviewed the situation with our platform on which this feature was supposed to be added, we realized that there is just no way we can provide this new feature to our customer in good faith. Unfortunately, at that time, our delivery platform experienced some stability problems. There were some report delivery inconsistencies. We couldn't fulfill all the requirements for the products that are out there. So with that situation of the platform state, we've made the decision that it's much more important to make sure that the platform functions as it should, that these underlying problems are fixed before we start working on a new feature. Because even though it's very, very important to the customer, delivering a new feature on a faulty platform with a lot of bugs, when we simply cannot guarantee that it's going to function as it needs to function, it's not really going to help. Yes, the feature will be delivered, but there will be bugs, there will be problems. The existing features will continue to have bugs and problems, and we're just going to lose customer confidence. And, I went back to the customer, I explained the situation, I explained our point of view, and the customer agreed, hey, considering the situation that the platform has right now, this customer was behind our decision and stayed with us and allowed us to work through the problems and then deliver a feature in a way that was helpful to him, and also gave us a way to make sure that we deliver a feature that actually works. Now, there is a lot of times from the QA side of things in their interactions with PMs. QAs help PMs ensure that the user stories they write are clear, complete, and testable. QAs have a great eye for sensing corner cases, limits, and to validate requirements. Really, QAs are the best guards out there for the overall user experience. So that also makes them great at detecting gaps. What are the missing scenarios? What are the edge cases which might be missing? And QA can help identify these gaps early in planning, where it's easier to correct and less costly to do that. QAs provide data for analysis to the PMs. They share insights from their defect findings. Are there any trends, specific areas that are problematic, or perhaps a process that continues on breaking? What are the regression results? Have worked on any new features broken the features that we delivered previously? They also work with production support team to understand and validate user issues and give PMs insights on what might be going on there. And as I mentioned earlier, QAs are the ultimate safeguard of the user experience overall. They're the ones who ensure that the final product behaves the way PMs want it to behave and also matches user expectations. Any questions, any comments, thoughts anybody would like to share? All right.
Hi, Mr. Felix. This is
Yes.
Sumitra.
Hi, Sumitra.
Hi. I was working as a QA engineer, both
Mhm.
in manual and automation for last 12 years. And I'm trying to switch to the product management side. So I have the question, when we switch, will they ask for any experience, or is it easy to transfer?
Well, so I was going to talk about this a little later down the road, but
Oh, okay.
no worries. That's fine. Uh, uh, Experience, yes. It would be nice if you can show some experience. Does it mean that you need to make sure that your role title actually says product manager or product owner? No, that's not really necessary. And what I'm going to show you with this current slide, the previous slide, and the couple of next slides is how the skills and the knowledge and the work that you're already doing in your QA engineer position matches what happens with the work that you're performing, you're going to perform as a PM. And you
Okay.
can definitely rephrase or reframe your resume to indicate that, hey, while my title was a QA engineer, look at all the things I did that actually align with what product managers do in their work.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely one of the topics that we're going to be covering in this class, well, how do you do the transition? And, uh, you know, an outside comment, once we get towards the end of the class and you start writing out your resume, if you need resume writing assistance, this is something that you can engage with Portnoy Computer School on. We have a wonderful resume expert in Jana who teaches a lot of our QA courses. And her knowledge of resume writing is just absolutely vast. And not only for the QA, but she can also help with resume writing for the PM position as well. So once we're at that point, please engage with Irina, our administrator. She's on our Slack channel, and direct any questions about the resumes to her. And also, I will be available to provide any questions, any clarifications, or help around this as well. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on. So why QA can easily transition to a PM role, QA engineers are trained to analyze user flows, find edge cases, break down complex systems. This is the same analytical mindset that PMs and POs need when they define clear requirements, when they try to understand customer problems, So as somebody who will come into a PM or PO role, they're not going to be starting from scratch. They can already anticipate issues early in the product lifecycle, and this will really help with improving the product quality and reducing rework. Like if I have to give you an example, a QA tester who can catch user friction in a checkout workflow can easily translate that insight into a user story or a feature improvement as a product owner. QA roles are really all about user experience, So they already are trained to ensure that the products behave as the users expect. And that's the way of thinking that PMs and POs have. What's the user trying to do? Where are they getting stuck? What's the most valuable for them to be fixed or to improve? So as you can see, there is quite a lot of alignment. And we can continue down that list. QAs need to be able to read requirements and understand them well, and to be able to validate them. This is another side of what PMs and POs do when they write and prioritize requirements. It's, PMs write, QAs analyze. But if you're really good at analyzing and understanding and validating, those skills are easily transitioned to somebody who can write them in a way that's easy to understand and interpret. I have to say that my technical background has helped me a ton of times as I wrote requirements, because I could truly look at them from an engineering point of view and see where the gaps are and what might be missing. QAs know the difference between a clearly defined testable acceptance criteria or something that's vague, something that is left to multiple interpretations. Cross-functional collaboration, a lot of what PMs do involves working with different groups that are part of the product delivery. Well, guess what? QA already does a lot of that as well. QA works closely with developers, designers, product managers to clarify behavior and fix issues. Well, PMs collaborate, with QA, developers, designers, and other groups as well. To be able to collaborate like that is invaluable to a PM. QA professionals already ask clarifying questions, facilitate problem-solving discussions, and communicate effectively across different groups and disciplines. A lot of that will still continue to apply to somebody in a product owner or product manager role. A lot of what PMs do have to do with process and the agile software development lifecycle. Well, QAs participate in all the agile ceremonies. They attend daily stand-ups. They participate in sprint planning, test sprint deliverables. So they're not new to this either, They are already exposed to Scrum ceremonies, story refinement, release cycles. They will continue to do a lot of that as a product manager or product owner, just from a slightly different angle. But none of that knowledge, none of those skills will be going to waste. They will be valuable to you as a product owner just as much. QAs go into testing with a data-driven mindset. They rely on metrics. What are the defect rates? What is the regression pass percentage? To understand the product quality. Well, it's very important for a PM as well. Good PMs use use data to measure success. What is my conversion rate? What is my user engagement? How many users are dropping off after a week of using the system? So these data analysis skills that you've accumulated as a QA professional to measure, analyze, and communicate your findings and insights that you see from the data. You will be looking at different data sets that have to do with user behaviors and how the system is being used, but those same analysis skills will be very helpful in understanding the insights from the data and making decisions based on those insights. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on this? All right. Now, I don't want you to get the impression that, switching from QA or a general tech role to a product manager is just a title change. No, while a lot of skills are shared and can be used in your new role as a product manager, there are some skills where additional learning will be needed and where you will truly be starting from scratch in many ways. So product strategy, to be able to understand the why behind building features. Why a particular feature needs to be built? Why is it important to the customer? What's our return on investment for building that feature? Should we build it now, or should we build something else first? So this is a relatively new area for somebody who's coming in from a technical profession. This will require a lot of learning, but it's not something that you cannot pick up. If you're successful as an engineer, you can be just as successful in picking up these new skills and become an overall successful product manager. Customer discovery. So this is a somewhat of a switch. You already, as a QA, position yourself in the shoes of the customer. But really, the product is being looked at from a lens of what's broken. And now you need to look at it from a somewhat new angle. Well, this is what we already have, but what can we add, or how can we change our existing experience to make the customer lives better and to make the products more useful to them? Prioritization frameworks. This kind of sorry, I stopped because I see a question on chat. Any specific educational background is required or welcome as a PM? So, well, besides QA engineer, well, usually there are 3 paths for somebody to become a product manager. The one that I'm talking about right now is somebody from a technical background. So this is somebody who knows how software development lifecycle works, have spent time building products, but now would like to move over to a more business-oriented domain and focus not only on how something is built, but why do we build it? What do we get out of it? And that sort of thing. Another path is somebody who's studied in business school and focuses specifically on product management. So this is a professional product manager, by education. They will not necessarily have the technical background that somebody from a technical domain would have, but they perhaps will have slightly more advantage in terms of knowing the business side of things, the business processes, the product strategy, that sort of stuff. The third path that somebody can take to become a product manager is somebody who is a subject matter expert in a particular industry. For example, at my work right now, I work side by side with a product manager who's been in real estate for 20 some years. He knows the mortgage business inside and out. And with that knowledge of the industry, he's taken on some classes on how product management works and converted from somebody who's a business expert to a product management role. And for somebody in that position, their strongest suit is the understanding of the business, how a specific industry works. They also will have a pretty good insight into product strategy, customer discovery, this sort of things. But they tend to be weaker on the technological side of things. And really, a product manager is somebody who needs to have a certain level of knowledge in all 3 of these areas. We need to be able to have clear and competent communication with the technology teams. So we need to be able to understand how the technological processes work, know the terminology, and make decisions without just relying on what the technology team says, but to, understand why a particular decision makes sense from a technology perspective. We need to know how to run products, what's the product strategy, how do we work with customers, how do we prioritize what gets built now, what gets built later. And we also need to have a certain amount of insights into how our industry works. Although this third one is something that can be learned as you're joining a new industry. So long as you are solid on working with the technical teams and you understand the necessary skills on how product management works in general, the niche knowledge that you need for your specific industry that you're trying to get into is something that can be learned. Plus, just because you're on the technical side, it doesn't mean that you have not picked up the industry knowledge. If you have been doing technical work in health industry, for example, it'll be just as invaluable to you as somebody who tries to be a product manager in health industry. I hope that answers the question. Going back to this slide, so product strategy, one area, customer discovery, determine what our users need, who are our users' personas, which user groups are we targeting with our product, how do we prioritize what gets built and when, how do we allocate enough time to make sure that we don't build up technical debt and make our products technically outdated. We need to also be on par with the business. How do our product decisions connect to overall company goals? After all, if our product doesn't make money for the company, then it may be a great product, but it's not something that's feasible in the long term. Nobody wants to work for free. And then stakeholder management. As I already mentioned, a product manager is somebody who works with many, many teams. We work with technology, we work with business, we work with production support, we work with design, we work with marketing, we work with leadership. So to be able to comfortably communicate with everybody and keep everybody happy is a very important skill to have. And while some of the cross collaboration already is done by QA, it's definitely not to the same degree as somebody in product management. Any questions, any comments on this? All right, I'll move on. And, here's an example of what a career path may look like for somebody who is transitioning from a QA engineer to a product management type role. So you start as a QA engineer, you learn your trade, you reach some sort of a senior level or go to QA lead, and then you transition to an associate product owner or straight product owner role, then product owner, and then a full-blown product manager. Does it mean that you have to go through every single entry on this example path? No, it all depends on your specific situation, your specific company structure, but this is one potential career path. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on this? And, I can speak about myself, what led me. Oh, Sumitra, looks like you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, so this answers my question. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Glad to help. That's what we're here for, But if you take me, I started as a QA when I was still in college. I was doing that work. Then I transitioned to a full-blown software engineer. I was writing code. I was pretty happy with there, but one thing that kept bothering me about being a software engineer is, I made a determination on how a particular feature would be built, what kind of technology we're going to use, what kind of approach, what kind of an architecture. Yes, this was up to me. But it was not up to me to determine what exactly we're building. And I didn't have really any insight or a lot of insights into why these product decisions are being made the way they're being made. So I really wanted to step into the shoes of somebody who not only chooses how something is built, but somebody who determines of what we build, when we build it, and why we build it. And, I've been happy as a product owner ever since. I really did, start seeing insights into the business world, why business decisions are being made the way they are, how the determination is made of why a particular feature gets built now versus another feature that perhaps might be just as helpful to the customer. So if you're somebody who's curious about these things, then product manager career is the right one for you. Or, at least learn more about it and then make your determination fully knowing what you might be getting into. All right, so now that we talked about who this class is for and how somebody might transition from a technical position into product management, let's talk a little bit more about, what is product management? Why is it important? Why is there a lot of hype about it? And especially, how is it important in the age of AI? So let's start with a very simple question. Before we talk about product management, let's talk a little bit about what is a product. Please, anybody speak up. What do you think a product is? No, nobody?
Product can be an application.
Certainly, yes, a software product would be an application. That's definitely one example of a product, but in general, a product is really anything that can be offered to a market to satisfy a customer's need or desire, and it can be very varying in form. It can include physical items, it can include services or experiences. It's something that's created to meet customer demands, and like I said, it can be very, very varying in its form and function. Yes, I see a comment in the chat, something you can buy and sell. Certainly, that's an example of a product. So let's take a look at some examples, and this is going to be very basic, very straightforward. Physical items that are products. Buying a car, you just bought a product. Going to a grocery store, buying some bread, buying some fruits, that's products. Clothing, yet another product. Physical items are pretty straightforward. Services, well, those are products as well. Going to get a haircut, that's a product. Staying at a hotel, that's a product. Email services like Google, that's a product. This class and product management, that's a product as well. Financial software such as, TurboTax. Entertainment software, gaming, streaming a movie, going to the movies. These are all products. And then there are more special subcategory of services, experiences, attending a sports event or once in a lifetime concert or going dining at a fine restaurant. That's yet another type of a product. So ultimately, that's how all businesses function. They make money by selling products in one form or another. So, if everything's a product, I think that kind of already starts highlighting why the role of a product manager is a pretty important role. So let's look at it in a little bit more detail. So what is product management? Product management, it's really the process of planning, developing, launching, and then improving on a product in order to meet customer needs and business goals. A product manager acts as a bridge to bring together user experience, technology, and business. Product managers will work with teams like engineering, design, marketing, sales to bring a product to life. It is not a product manager responsibility to write code or to create designs, but we are the ones that make sure that everything moves in the right direction and gets completed in the way that's needed for the customer and to meet the business goals. Any questions, any comments on this? All right. So a little bit more on product management. It's really the glue that holds product development together. We balance user needs, business objectives, technical constraints to deliver the products. It's up to product management to ensure that the company builds the right product, the one that not only delivers value to the users, but also drives business success. And how do we do that? Well, we collect feedback, we track metrics, and we iterate. We redesign and rebuild based on what we learn. In this way, PMs help products evolve and stay competitive in the market. And before I move on, any questions about this slide or the slide previously? All right. But so I previously mentioned how product managers need to coordinate with many, many different teams. So this is a diagram that highlights some of these interactions with other teams. In one of the previous classes, one of the students called this diagram product manager Spider-Man. And so let's go through this list. Sorry if it's a little bit small to read on the slide, but I'll go over all the items here. So what are the groups that product manager works with on a regular basis? Well, let's start at the top, engineering and development. What would the interaction look like with that team? Well, we want to add a one-click checkout to our product. How complex would that be to implement in this upcoming sprint? We also interact with the design or UI UX team. And that interaction may look like this. Let's test 2 versions of the new user onboarding workflow and see which one leads to higher activation, which one brings in more users. This concept of testing 2 different approaches to something is also known as A/B testing, and it's something that's done by product managers quite a lot. There is interactions with QA and testing team, which we've already talked about, but that interaction may look like, let's make sure that the new payment flow handles expired credit cards gracefully. We have to interact with the data analytics and business intelligence teams. What will that interaction look like? For example, can you help me analyze why user retention dropped 10% or 15% in the last month? So trying to find the user trends and understand what might be causing things to happen that happened. We work with the marketing and growth team to highlight new features. For example, a new feature we're bringing in is going to solve a big pain point for our customer. Let's highlight it in our launch messaging. We work with sales and business development to make sure that, if we build a new feature or a new integration, will it actually help us close more deals? Will it actually bring in more money to our company? We have to work with customer support teams because, once a product has been delivered to production, our work is not done. We need to make sure that it functions as expected, and we need to keep updating it to make sure that the customer expectations and demand is still being met. So that interaction may look like, we're seeing a spike in cancellation tickets. What's going on? What are the users telling you? We need to work with the finance and the legal team. For example, we recently released a new feature. We need to make sure that the legal team or the finance team tells us that the workflow for that feature is actually something that's allowed based on the industry and business rules. We have to communicate what's going on to the executives and the leadership as well. Are we on target for our upcoming release? What are potentially some blockers? Do we recommend moving to developing a new feature or a new product, or should we put a hold on that and work on stabilizing what we already have out there? So product managers, they don't manage teams, they don't own teams. We manage a product. So I'm not a manager of a delivery team. I'm not a manager of an engineering team or a design team. I cannot come to them and order them to do something. I can influence with authority. If there is a superpower that a product manager has, it's a collaboration. I need to be able to communicate with all the different teams, bring them together, and convince them that we are working in the right direction and we can build something that users will love and will provide business value as well. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on this?
So, Mr. Felix, when you say that we don't own a team, we own the product, to whom we will be communicating first?
Well, you mean in terms of escalations if something goes
Yeah.
wrong?
No, from the initial point of telling the team what is the expectation of the product.
Well, yeah, we're talking about a product flow, and we'll do a deeper dive into one of the future lessons. But overall, a product flow may look like this. Either business will have an idea of how an existing product can be improved, or a new product can be built to bring in more business and to create value for the customer where none exists now. They will explore the industry to understand other players in the market, and they will conduct analysis on actual user interest. So it's not just a thought that they have in their head, but they actually have data to back up that the idea is valuable and this is something that indeed makes sense to be built. Once all of that is laid out, it's up to the product manager to put together a cohesive list of features that's needed. And at that point, they will engage design to build out the UI and the user experience of how that will function. They may engage business analysts or a business team directly to understand the product workflow from a business perspective. Once all of that is in place, they will engage engineers to walk through the early concepts of the product, what we're trying to deliver. And by engineers, I mean QA as well. And, I cannot come to an engineering team and say, hey, build me this feature. It needs to be built in 2 days.
Okay.
That's not how things work. I need to get their input. This is an idea that they have. This is why, it makes sense. This is the kind of value that it will deliver to the customer. Now, how can we build it? Design, please tell me what are our options in order to deliver the UI interface and the user experience, what that should look like from your perspective. Engineering, can you please take a look at my idea and take a look at the design that the UI team put together? Are there any questions from your perspective? What are our limitations technology-wise? Do we need to bring in some new software? Do we need to stand up new servers?
Okay, got it. So like you said, product manager will be communicating with all the teams on one-on-one.
Well, not necessarily one-on-one, but it can be done in multiple groups together, but a product manager needs to be able to work with all of them, one way or another.
Okay.
And I see some questions on the chat as well. What's the main differences between product owner and product manager? Hold on, we'll go into that in just a little bit. But yes, there are a lot of questions about different roles in the product domain, and we'll take a deeper dive into the different roles out there. But the general comparison is that product owner is somewhat more junior to product manager. And then another comment, usually t-shirt sizing and all that happen before we even get into details about the project. From an engineering perspective, from a technical team perspective, yes. But from a product manager, there is already some preliminary work that's been done, such as trying to figure out the feasibility in terms of, well, are we going to be able to make money off of this? Is this indeed something that our customer want? This work already has been initially done, and also perhaps some early consultations with the UI, UX, and engineering in order to understand what might the possible constraints be as well. Hope that answers those questions. Any other questions? And before we move on? All right. So now, sorry, I'm going to come back to this topic, but I wanted to highlight some of the interactions that already happen to somebody in a QA role and the cross collaboration that they are already doing. They already work with some of the same teams. It's a smaller subset of what somebody in a PM role would communicate with, but still, a QA will work with general engineering and development already to discuss feature implementation, to discuss potential bugs that may be found there. They already work with design and UI UX team. For example, well, the hover state on the mobile looks different from the design. Is this intentional or not? Just confirming that what's being built actually matches what the business expectations are there. QA will interact with product managers, product owners already. The acceptance criteria says show an error for invalid emails. But, well, what about if somebody forgets to enter an email? They leave a blank field. Should this error be shown as well? Is that considered an invalid email too? Just making sure that the product functions exactly as envisioned by the PM and matches user expectations, showing those corner cases and edge scenarios that perhaps product team didn't think of when they were writing out the product stories. They work with DevOps to ensure that everything is deployed and is ready to be tested. They work with customer support to try to reproduce user-reported problems or understand the user-reported behaviors. So, to go back to the previous slide, you can see that the QA interactions cover a large part of the work that the product manager does. So as somebody in a QA role, you do have a lot of exposure already to what a product manager does. All right, so let's talk about roles in the product domain. And this will provide us an answer to the question about, what are the differences between product owner, product manager? There are other roles as well. Let's talk about all of them. So there are a lot of positions. They sound somewhat similar. It's really hard to tell sometimes what the difference is, but there's a product manager, there's a product owner, there's a business analyst. How is that related to that? There is a scrum master, there is a project manager, even though, that's not really product domain, that's project domain, but a lot of these roles seem to overlap one way or another. So let's try to clear these things out. Let's try to make sense of who's who. So first, what's the difference between product manager and a product owner? So as I mentioned previously, product owner is somewhat junior, usually, to a product manager. The main focus for the product manager role is to answer the questions like why and what. They define product vision, strategy, and long-term goals. They are the ones who conduct market research and identify customer needs. It's usually the product manager that will own the product roadmap. They will prioritize what to build and when. And they're responsible for making sure that their product decisions align with the business objectives and satisfy the stakeholders' demands. And they usually look at numbers that are important to the business in terms of determining success, such as revenue growth, adoption of the product, how many users are using it, retention, how many users are continuing to use our product once they tried it. And in terms of who they represent in a product workflow, they will act as a voice of the business and also represent the end customer needs. Now, how is that different from a product owner? Product owner is more entrenched into the day-to-day product activities. They work on how and when within the team. They will work more closely with the actual development teams. They will own and manage the product backlog to make sure that it's clear, it's prioritized, and ready to be consumed in a sprint. They will translate the high-level product requirements and goals into actual user stories, acceptance criteria, and release plans. It's usually the product owner that participates in daily scrums, sprint planning, retrospectives. They represent the voice of the customer within the Scrum team. And they're the ones who ensure that each sprint delivers some measurable value. So if we try to draw an analogy, one can say that a product manager is like a flight planner They determine where we're going to be flying, what the destination is, the route, well, what path are we going to take to get there, and the purpose of our trip. And then the product owner is like the pilot. They execute on the plan that the product manager put together by actually flying it safely and efficiently to reach our destination. They're responsible for the day-to-day delivery and team coordination. Now, is it possible for somebody to be both a product manager and a product owner? Absolutely. It really depends on your organization structure. Usually, if we're talking about large structured companies, PM and POs will be separate roles, and the PM will focus on the business strategy and customer insights, and the PO will focus on sprint planning, backlog refinement, and agile ceremonies. If we're talking about smaller teams or smaller companies, a person can do both. Be responsible both for the strategy, the product manager side of things, and for the execution, the product owner side of things. It's not really about the title, it's about how you approach your work and the company needs. I've seen companies where the title of somebody was a product manager, but if you looked at their responsibilities, they were truly product owners, and vice versa. I also have a friend who works at a company, and they don't have any product managers. They only have product owners, but it's the product owners that are responsible for the strategies. So not your traditional product owner responsibility. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on this? All right, let's do a somewhat deeper dive into some of the other roles. So how about the product owner versus business analyst? Well, these are not exactly the same either. Product owner represents the voice of the customer. Their main questions are what and why now? What are we building and why we build it now in a short term and within the team that actually builds the product. They make sure that most valuable features are delivered first. The business analyst, on the other hand, they look into the how and the implementation details. Usually, business analysts are more expert, more knowledgeable about the business processes and industry processes than a product manager or a product owner may be. Not always the case, but generally, that's how things differentiate. A business analyst will gather and document functional and non-functional requirements. They will map out the current business state of the processes from the business side of things and what the future state should be once a feature is or a new product is delivered. A business analyst will work with the stakeholders to ensure the business and technical alignment. They will analyze the data to identify opportunities and validate requirements. And they will make sure that the solution that's being developed will actually meet business needs. So an analogy here would be, a product owner is like an architect. So an architect takes a homeowner's vision into a prioritized blueprint for the builders. And they decide what features are going to be focused on first. And the business analyst is like a structural engineer. They will make sure that every detail of the plan that product owner puts together is actually doable, feasible, makes sense, and is structurally sound. And they will document all the specifications and make sure that they can be executed correctly. Now, similarly to the previous slide, can these roles be combined? Well, really and truly depends on your company structure. In some companies, a product owner may also handle BA responsibilities, such as writing requirements for, the more technical, the more involved business aspects of the product or a feature. In other companies, especially larger organizations, the roles will coexist. They will not be combined. And the PO in such situations will focus on the backlog prioritization and sprint value. And the BA will focus on providing the analytics and documentation. And in those rare situations where your company or your product or your industry does not follow agile software development cycles, a BA may actually replace the product owner, because if we're talking about the more standard waterfall old school approach, then having clearly defined requirements and data insights is more valuable than running the product owner activities. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on this? All right, let's move on then. Now, I've also mentioned the project manager. Product manager, project manager sound the same. The acronym is the same pretty much. So what's actually the difference? The product manager, once again, focuses on why and the what. What should be built and why it matters. The project managers will focus on how and when. They make sure that the project or the feature being built is going to be completed on time and within the scope. So the product managers will define product vision, strategy. They're the ones who understand the customer needs, market trends, business goals. They're responsible for the product roadmap, what features to build and when. And they will work with design and engineering to prioritize and shape the product. The project manager plans and coordinates execution. They make sure that tasks, timelines, and deliverables are met. They manage resources, dependencies, and risks. And they're the ones who track progress, work with stakeholders, and remove blockers. Their most important focus is on efficiency, making sure that the team delivers on time and on budget. They measure project success, and this measure is based on on-time delivery, completion of the planned scope, and stakeholder satisfaction. An analogy here would be that the product manager is like a head chef. They decide what's on the menu based on customer preferences and business strategy. And project manager is a restaurant manager. They make sure that all the ingredients that are needed to deliver the meals arrive on time, that the kitchen actually runs smoothly, and that the meals get out to the customers in an efficient way. Usually, these roles are distinct and separate, although in smaller companies or startups where everybody wears multiple hats, it is possible for a product manager to also be a project manager and vice versa. Any questions here? What are the approximate salaries for those different roles and what educational degrees they require? Well, in terms of educational degrees, a bachelor's degree always helps. Usually, if we're talking about software companies, they will look for a technical degree, although, both in product and even more so in project management, business degrees are working just as well. Having an MBA is an additional plus as well, but none of these are an absolute requirement. I am aware of multiple folks who work in product management and project management who do not actually have bachelor degrees. One thing that you have to say about software industry in general is it is a disruptor industry. Many of the folks who are truly seen as pioneers in this industry did not have degrees when they did their pioneer work. Steve Jobs, one example, Bill Gates, another one. So just with that general history of the industry, having a degree is a plus, but not necessarily a requirement. What is required is being able to demonstrate that you have the knowledge and that you have the right way of thinking. Salary-wise, it can truly vary depending on your experience on a specific industry. Generally, product management tends to get paid somewhat higher than project management. But there is a wild salary differentiation. Some of the lower and beginning product manager positions can start, in 115K, 120K based on my experience. And then some of the more senior, more advanced product managers will receive, above 200K. So the scale is really, really different depending on your specific experience level and industry that you're comfortable working with. Hope that answers that question. Any other questions? All right. So, and then one more comparison that I would like to do is, well, the project manager versus Scrum Master. Both seem to be managing teams, so they're one and the same, aren't they? And no, not quite. They're different as well. So a project manager focuses on delivering the project. They manage scope, they manage schedule, they manage the budget, timelines, they coordinate the resources, dependencies, they track progress, risks, issues. They're the ones who are talking to the stakeholders. They make sure that the costs are in check, that the schedule is on time. That's their cup of tea. Now, Scrum Masters, well, number one, they're really, really specific to agile development styles. A Scrum Master simply does not exist in waterfall. What is the Scrum Master's responsibility? Well, they're also known as a servant leader. They facilitate and they teach. Scrum Masters make sure that Scrum ceremonies are happening the way they should. Daily stand-ups, sprint planning, reviews, retrospectives. They're coaching the team on how Agile works in general. And if they see any blockers, whether it's within the team or the company structure, that do not allow Agile to be truly implemented, they will work to try to remove those impediments, whether it's with the team leadership or the company leadership. They will protect the team from the distractions and scope creep. They will work with the team to encourage continuous improvement and team empowerment. So they're not a traditional manager. While a project manager is more of a traditional manager, a Scrum Master is most certainly not. They're a servant leader. So they provide guidance on how Agile works, how ceremonies should be run. They facilitate those ceremonies. They will help the team improve from one sprint to the next, but they do not manage the team. They do not tell the team what to do. So a good analogy here would be, a project manager is like a coach. They plan the game strategy, they assign roles, they monitor performance, and then they report results to management. The Scrum Master is like a team captain. They keep the team focused during the game. They resolve any internal issues or conflicts, and they make sure that everybody plays their role effectively. Now, as I mentioned, in a traditional waterfall organization, everything falls to the project managers, and Scrum Masters don't even exist. In an Agile organization, most of them are Agile nowadays, Scrum Master will facilitate the process, but the accountability for delivery is shared across the team, and project managers will still exist on the program or portfolio level, coordinating multiple Agile teams. And both roles may coexist. Okay, so we've gone through all the different roles that are related or often mentioned when it comes to product. Any questions on any of them, or overall about the materials that I've shared so far? All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the course itself. Now that I gave you an idea of, why transitioning from a tech role into product management is a good idea for somebody, why you have a lot of prerequisites that a product manager role will require. Also gave you a little bit of insight into what product managers do, why they're important, what are the different roles within the domain. Let's talk about the actual course. So, as I mentioned, the course consists of 8 2.5-hour sessions. Class meetings twice a week, Tuesday, Thursdays at 6 p.m. How will the communications happen? We have our Slack class channel. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Irina, our wonderful administrator, anytime. You can reach out to us privately or post in the general class channel if you feel your question would be something that the entire class might be interested in. All class information, including the session recordings, necessary handouts, class outlines, will be posted on a specially created class page at our online.pertnov.net class site. Those of you who took previous courses with us are familiar with this site and how to get in. If it's necessary, this class will be taught entirely in English, but if it's helpful to any of you, please feel free to reach out to me either in English or in Russian. I will provide help in either language. I speak both fluently. In terms of the class cost or how to sign up, please connect with Irina. I will also make sure that the directions are posted in the class Slack channel if they're not already posted. Any questions on this? Any questions on the class structure, timing, anything else? Will we have the access to the first free session recording to rewatch it? Yes. This session will be shared publicly. Absolutely. What are the minimum requirements for a junior PM? Are there many open jobs for beginners in product management? There are definitely many openings. I've checked earlier today before the class on LinkedIn. There are quite a lot of positions in product management. As a junior, somebody just starting with the role, my suggestion is to look at associate product owner or product owner roles. As I mentioned, those are usually considered more junior to product manager, and product manager being product manager roles being more senior. And what are the minimum requirements for a junior PM position? Well, you know, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have a good understanding of software development lifecycle and methodologies. Most of the focus nowadays is on Agile and Scrum in particular. You need to show an understanding of technical concepts that you are going to be working with, such as you know, how APIs work in general, what's cloud hosting, some basic software development frameworks that are out there widely in use. This does not mean you need to be able to write code, but to talk to them, to talk about these concepts and to be able to explain them in a way where somebody non-technical can understand them. They need to have an understanding in general of how product lifecycle works, you know, from inception to development to launch to post-launch support. And we'll be going over a lot of these in this class. How to write stories, how to run sprints, how to work and collaborate with the different teams and handle tough situations. It sounds like a lot, but truly it's something that's doable and learnable. And like I said, somebody coming from a technical background will have a lot of these skills already down pat, especially the ones that have to do with you know, Agile process, Scrum ceremonies, and interacting with the technical teams. And I also wanted to highlight the comments in the chat that were posted by Irina. So there is her phone number and email address for any questions. And you can also reach out to her on Slack in the class channel. Any other questions? Any other comments? Oh. Do you provide assistance with resume and interview preparation? Yes, I mentioned earlier that you know, once we get towards the end of the class, I will have at least one session dedicated to just focusing on resume building, job search, the right things, the wrong things. So that's going to be part of the class. Additionally, Portnov school also offers help with resumes and interview prep in general. It's more focused on the QA side of things, but for the students in this class, we can provide assistance with that as well. You would need to connect with Irina to arrange the details on how that would work. Hope that answers that question. Any other thoughts, questions before we move on?
So, Mr. Felix, so this is the first class of one of the 8 classes, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
One more question. Will we be referring any of the books available in the market?
Yes, I can certainly provide some, suggested reading and that sort of thing, and we'll be sharing that as part of the class. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the things that we'll cover as the part of this class. We're going to be talking about some product manager tools and how they're used. We're going to talk, task management, project tracking, roadmap, strategy planning. Asana is one example of a tool that's quite widely used. Jira, that's really kind of your go-to standard when it comes to agile project management and development and QA work tracking. Slack, well, that is our class communication channel, but within the work force, it's also a widely used tool for team communication, chat, and quick collaboration. Miro is another tool that's widely used in product management. It's a great tool for online whiteboarding and collaborative design. Figma is a tool that's commonly used in conjunction with the UI UX design teams, and it's used often for design work, prototyping, and wireframing. Draw.io, that's another tool that's great for creating flowcharts, diagrams, customer journey maps, something that's used quite widely. SurveyMonkey, great tool for creating customer surveys and collecting customer feedback. And then Google Analytics, it's your basic tool for looking into the web performance and product performance tracking. So these are some of the tools that we'll be looking at as part of this course. And, I want to do a quick walkthrough of the topics that we're going to look into as part of the course. General, what is product management? And we've did quite a lot of that today. What are the roles? What is the role about? What are the responsibilities? Why is it important in creating successful products? We're going to talk about the product lifecycle. We are in detail understanding the different stages of a product's journey from an idea to launch and beyond. What the ideation stage looks like, what development looks like, and what post-launch support may look like for a product. What's the role of a product manager? What are the core responsibilities? Strategy, execution, stakeholder management. We'll go over that. How do you conduct customer research? What are the methods out there? How do you work with surveys, interviews, and analytics to inform product decisions? How do you conduct market analysis? How do you get data to understand trends? What are your competitors like? What are potential target audiences for a product that you're trying to build? We're going to talk about creating product roadmaps, how to create and prioritize items within those roadmaps. How do you set realistic timelines and manage stakeholder expectations? We're going to talk about defining product requirements. How do you write clear, actionable user stories? How do you create an epic and break it up into meaningful user stories that can be worked on and can guide the development team? We're going to talk about cross-functional collaboration. Well, there are a lot of different teams that product managers need to communicate with on a regular basis. How do you keep that going? How do you create and execute a product plan successfully in conjunction with all these teams? We're going to walk through agile methodology. What are the basic principle frameworks such as Scrum and Kanban? How can they be used to iterate and deliver products and sprints? We're gonna talk about MVP, minimum viable product. How do you launch a product to test the hypothesis, gather user feedback, and validate assumptions with minimal resources? Jay, I see your question about the fee. I will come back to that after I'm done with this slide. We're going to talk about product metrics and KPIs. How do you define and track key performance indicators to make sure that you are able to measure how successful your product truly is? So it's not just a guess. What's actual user engagement? How much revenue is our product bringing in? We need to learn to work with stakeholders as product management. So that's one topic that we're going to dive into as well. What are the techniques for effectively communicating and managing relationships with various stakeholders, whether it's customers, business, or executives? We're going to learn different prioritization frameworks in order to determine what do we build and in what order. Going to go into frameworks like RICE, which uses 4 factors to determine which items should be worked on first. It depends on the reach, impact, confidence, and effort. We're also going to look at another framework approach called MOSCO, which breaks tasks or user stories into 4 groups: must have, should have, could have, and won't have. We'll talk about risk management. How do we identify, assess, and mitigate risks throughout the product development? We're going to have a session to specifically talk about AI. How can AI assist me as a product manager? And we're going to go into some user experience design to make sure that you as product managers understand the UX principles and how to integrate them into product design at an early stage to enhance product usability. And in terms of class interactions, class formats, as I mentioned, I really think this is a class that will benefit a lot from user participation. Not only do I want you guys to sit there and listen to me all the time, I think not only is it boring for me personally as a teacher, but I think it will not be as helpful to you guys. In order for you to be able to gain the most out of this class, I am going to have sessions with student participation. We'll break up into different teams, work on different products, different parts of products, and then come back together and share our ideas. I'm open to questions anytime. I love questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question or wrong questions. I'm happy to answer the topics that we're going over in the class. I'm also happy to share some of the things that I have learned over the course of my work experience and share those insights with you. Jay, your question in terms of what's the fee for the course. The fee, as far as I understand from Irina, the fee for the course is $500. This is a special promotion for former Portnov School students, but I highly recommend connecting with Irina and discussing the monetary questions with her. She will give you insights on how to pay, if there are any plans that will allow you to pay in increments, how that works, and also, perhaps she can offer some sort of a customary payment plan if there are special payment situations that you may have. So please connect with her. She's wonderful and accommodating and will be able to provide any help or answer any questions about payment and class enrollment. Okay, and with this introductory session coming to its end, please, any other questions about this class, any other topics that you'd like me to talk about today? All right. I hope no questions means that I'm doing a good job and I'm answering all the questions before they even come. Okay, if nobody has any questions, then I would like to ask you to do a little bit of homework. And it's something that we can talk about for those of you that are truly interested in the class and will join our next session. So imagine a situation, business management wants to, you have some, sorry, let me back up a little bit. You have some sort of a web application. And business management wants to increase the number of users who log into the application. Currently, the only way users can log in is to register on the site and log in using their email and password. So something to think about and something that we can share in our next session. What can be done from your perspective? Perhaps technically, perhaps using advertising or marketing to achieve this goal of increasing the number of users on the site. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts from anybody on the homework or overall?
No, Mr. Felix. So you want the answers for the next week, correct?
It would actually be Thursday.
Okay.
Yes, our next class would be Thursday. So yes, please think about this and something that we can start off our class with on Thursday for our session number 2.
Sure.
Well, if nobody has any questions, then thank you so much for spending the evening with me today. I really appreciate you joining this session. And hopefully I will see you all in our next class. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good day.
You too, Felix. Thank you.